Ever feel like trying to stay ahead of the curve in B2B marketing is like, well, drinking from a fire hose?
It's a lot, right?
It is. Thankfully, that's why we do these deep dives, to step back and learn from the pros. And today, we're diving into the world of B2B marketing managers in manufacturing.
Absolutely. And we've got some great insights to share from conversations with three marketing managers, Rory, Justin, and Sean, who are really making waves in their space.
Definitely. What really struck me was, even though they're coming from different companies, different sizes, different approaches, they're all facing this like core set of challenges. The first one that jumped out, just cutting through the noise.
It's a common thread, isn't it? Like, how do you get your message heard in such a crowded marketplace? And I think for manufacturing, that's even more intense.
Right, because it's not just the sheer volume of competition, it's that whole digital landscape exploding. So everyone's fighting for visibility online.
Exactly.
And then it's not just about being heard, it's what resources do you have to actually do this? And all three of our marketing managers talked about this limited budgets, smaller teams, always being asked to do more with less.
It's that classic lean marketing dilemma, but it seems especially pronounced in manufacturing these days, wouldn't you say?
For sure, which makes you wonder, how are they adapting? One big takeaway, they're all moving towards this like omni-channel content marketing strategy.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It seems like the days of relying solely on those traditional methods, like trade shows, are fading. They still have their place,
It's
but
got to be more, right?
exactly. They're realizing they've got to go further.
Yeah, and content is how they're doing it. We're talking revamping websites, really going deep on SEO, and a lot of experimentation with video especially. It's like everything's on the table.
Justin actually mentioned that they're moving away from relying so heavily on agencies and bringing some of that content creation in-house to stretch those resources even further.
Which probably comes with a whole other set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely. Could be a great long-term play, but short-term, you're right. That probably adds a whole new layer of pressure to their already full plates.
Okay, so content's king, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just about creating it. How are they using all this content effectively?
Yeah.
And speaking of content, one thing that came up again and again was video, which makes sense, right? Especially in manufacturing, where you're dealing with these complex products.
Oh, absolutely. Like, try explaining a multi-axis CNC machine with just a static image.
Exactly. And Justin had this great example about they build these like massive industrial machines. The scale's incredible. And he said trying to showcase those with just photos on their website,
Mm.
it just fell flat. But video, he said, that's what really brought those products to life.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. But here's the thing we've noticed. A lot of companies, they invest in creating great video content, which is fantastic, but then they kind of, I don't know.
They just put it out there and hope for the best.
Exactly. It's like they're sitting on a gold mine, but only mining a tiny fraction of it. And Sean even admitted, he's like, look, I know we should be doing more with repurposing our video content, but
Yeah.
he's just so slammed.
Yeah, been there.
He sees those engagement numbers go through the roof when they
Yeah.
use video. He said like 3, 4 times higher, but actually finding the time to repurpose it for different platforms, different links, all that, it's a struggle.
It's so much easier said than done.
Right. It's that classic content marketing dilemma.
Yeah.
And then Rory told this story about this video project, and I think it highlights this other challenge with video. Like, if you don't have a clear vision from the start,
Things can go sideways.
oh, yeah. So he's working on this video, and there's all this back and forth, revisions upon revisions. And of course, the budget just kept ballooning. And he realized they'd gone into it without that really solid plan, and it really hurt them in the end.
Okay, so lesson learned, don't skimp on the planning phase with video. But shifting gears a bit, we've talked about video, but what about interactive content? That seems like a whole other level of engagement.
It is, and it's really exciting to see how marketers are starting to use it. I mean,
Right.
think about it in a world where everyone's attention span is like, what, 5 seconds?
Mm,
You need something to cut through that clutter.
definitely.
And that's what interactive does so well. It forces people to engage, right? They're
Yeah.
not just passively scrolling, they're clicking, they're choosing their own adventure. It's a totally different experience.
So how are our marketing managers using it? Any good examples?
Oh, tons. Justin actually has this really cool plan for an upcoming trade show, IMTS. So instead of actually hauling their giant machinery to the show floor, which would be a logistical nightmare.
And expensive.
Right, exactly. So instead, they're creating this immersive virtual experience. Attendees can like virtually walk through their equipment, interact with it, all this cool stuff.
So it's like a virtual showroom, but way more engaging.
Exactly. And it's that kind of innovation that we love to see. So yeah, interactive, definitely a trend to watch. But I want to circle back for a second to that whole repurposing thing, because we hear this all the time. Even seasoned marketing managers, like our interviewees, it's easy to fall into that trap of,
Created this amazing thing, time to move on to the next.
yes, exactly.
Oh,
But what about squeezing all the juice out of that content? Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time, right?
nay.
And this is where repurposing is so key. Taking that one asset, that blog post, that video, and getting creative. Like, can it be a social media series? Can you pull out some killer quotes?
Totally. And it's funny because I remember Justin saying, he's like, I wish there were 10 of me, just to really maximize all the content they're putting out.
I think we all feel that way sometimes. But that's the beauty of repurposing. It's about working smarter, not harder. Which, by the way, is a great segue to something we wanted to share with you. Our website is packed with creative repurposing ideas and examples, free to download. Just head over to.
All this talk about doing more with less, it makes me wonder how these marketing managers are handling the, like, vendor landscape these days.
Yeah, because building those strong vendor relationships, that's crucial, but it can also be a bit of a minefield, can't it?
For sure.
All right.
So what's the strategy? Go all in with one vendor, build your own little network, something in between.
Right. Well, it seems like everyone's got their own approach. Rory, for example, he's all about working with specialists, finding the absolute best in class for each little thing.
Like assembling a marketing dream team.
Exactly. But then you've got Justin, and he prefers to go deep with fewer vendors, find those partners who can really offer a broad range of services.
Interesting. I guess there are pros and cons to both, right?
Totally. It's really about what works for your needs, your budget, even your company culture factors in. And then there's Sean. He seems to be finding his way, like somewhere in between those two approaches. He sees the value in consolidating certain services, definitely. But for other things, he still prefers that specialist's touch.
Which makes me think about all of you listening. How are you handling vendor relationships these days? Have you found that magic formula? What's working? What's not? Hit us up on social media. Let's compare notes.
I love that idea
Ooh,
because there's so much we can learn from each other, right? But one thing that came up a lot with our marketing managers was this idea of bundling services, particularly when it came to digital marketing.
Right. Sean was talking about that, like bundling SEO and email marketing and all that. Makes sense, streamline things, maybe even save a few bucks.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. He was very clear, keep the creative separate. He did not want to bundle that in.
Interesting. So one-stop shop for some things, but not everything.
Right. And I think it speaks to just how specialized creative work is. You need that deep understanding of your brand, your audience. But it did get me thinking, what if you could find a vendor who could not only nail that amazing content, but also handle all the repurposing and promotion?
Oh, now that would be a game changer.
Right. Okay, but we can't wrap up this deep dive without at least mentioning the elephant in the room.
Right.
Right. AI.
It's everywhere we turn these days. So what are the B2B marketers saying?
It's interesting. We got some really mixed reactions, honestly. Like Sean, for example, he's already using AI, but mostly for things like brainstorming, research, that kind of thing.
Break of his toes in the water.
Exactly. He's not quite ready to hand over the reins for like core content creation.
Which makes sense. AI's still got a way to go, right?
It does. And look, it's an incredibly powerful tool. But can it replicate that nuance, that creativity, that strategic human element that really makes marketing sing? I don't know.
Not yet, at least.
Right. It's about finding that balance, using AI strategically to amplify what we do, not replace it entirely. And that, to me, is what makes this such an exciting time to be in B2B marketing, figuring all this out. What do you think? How do you see AI shaping your work in the coming months and years? Are you already experimenting with AI tools? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of B2B marketing managers. Huge thank you to Rory, Justin, and Sean for sharing their experiences and insights.
Such a great conversation.
It really was. And for everyone listening, we hope you're walking away with some fresh perspectives, some new ideas to test out. Until next time, happy marketing.